Good afternoon. Time is 3:30. I'm Tim Post, Chairman of the Capital Improvements Committee, and I'd like to call our meeting to order. So please join me, rise for the pledge of allegiance. Flag is off to my right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We do have a quorum for today's meeting. Our meeting agenda has been duly posted to the town's website, well within the 48 hours as prescribed by law. It's a fairly short agenda, but we will be reviewing the overall list of presentations that were given to us. So the next item on the agenda will be approval of the minutes. The members of the committee have seen these prior to this meeting. Notice in your packet, we have a number of meeting minutes to approve.
We need to do it individually, or are we all set to?
We can do them in packet. We can do them individually.
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from December 17th, 2020 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the meeting minutes of December 17th, 2020. This is a matter of procedural error. And going back and checking after we followed up on our open meeting law complaint, these were some that were never approved, and we're working to correct that. Any questions or discussions on the motion pending? Second call, questions or discussions on the motion pending? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Make a motion to approve meeting minutes for January 27th, 2021 as written.
Second.
Have a motion made and seconded for approval of the minutes, January 27th, 2021. Any discussions on said motion? And hearing none, I will ask again, any discussions on said motion? Hearing no discussions, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Graves,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Richardson,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 3rd, 2021 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the meeting minutes as written for Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Any discussions? Second call, any discussions? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Mr. Graves,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Richardson,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
I move to approve the meeting minutes of November 17th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
Again, motion made, duly seconded. Approval of the meeting minutes of our meeting Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. Any further discussions? Second call, any further discussions? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Richardson.
Yeah.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, team, for that. Stepping forward, we have in front of us on the nice 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 sheet of paper, the spreadsheet. Mr. Graves worked so diligently to prepare for us. It's nice to be able to read it, not looking at the small print, trying to pull it up on the computer screen. So in no particular order, but as was presented by the departments, we have a number of items to look into. The initial review, does anybody have any questions before we dissect this?
Do we want to possibly take the ones that have alternate funding sources first, just to, how do you want to?
Yeah, I think that would be a great way to do it, especially since we do have potentials for alternate funding that will not impact our overall recommendation.
Yeah, we could do that. I think that would clear it up pretty quickly. I did compile a list just because I drew up the spreadsheet of which items were from retained earnings and which ones weren't. Just a correction on the spreadsheet. On item number 25 for the SCBA's, I believe those are going to be done through Light and Water, and I believe for item number 27, that has already been cleared through the excess amounts through ARPA that Senator Goby told us about, and those were appropriated for that project through the general court. So those two items can be moved out of the estimated taxpayer funded expenses and moved into the one of the other two columns. So if we wanted to just make that note.
That's great news. And as far as item 27, I know we got the initial notification from the senator. I believe that package is still sitting on the governor's desk for approval, but all indications are that should go through without a whole bunch of arguments and pushbacks. So it's always great news. Okay, let's start. I know there's some input through the town administrator, and Holly has some suggestions on that as well. So the first couple items that I see that start off line item number 3, sewer department for a tractor, replacement of their 1991 Ford New Holland tractor. And the funding source is sewer retained earnings. I understand they do have that money available, and that will not be a bearing on taxpayers. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Again, good news. We have a number of items, number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, all coming from TCTV. Some are some rollovers, some furnishings once we get the Scout Hall project wrapped up, equipment upgrades, the regional website, mobile switching system. These are all funds available from the cable returning earnings. Again, an alternative funding source that does not affect our overall tax levy and estimated taxpayer funded expenses. Any questions or discussions on those items?
No, I think it's great to be able to keep funding this stuff through that. It's a
Yes.
perfect case.
Yes, and I know there's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to continue to make that happen. So that is, again, great news. Down by items 22, 23, 24, all from the water department. Repairs to the Main Street Bridge in Otter River, the Maple Street culvert, Maple Street water main. These are all part of a funded $2.2 million general obligation bond. It is already on the books as existing debt. And again, this is no direct impact to the taxpayers due to any actions we take. This is already there. And of course, that has been approved, but this still will need to go forward to the town meeting floor. Any questions or discussions on that?
I just have a question
Sure.
/ comment on all of these items that are non-taxpayer funded. Did you want to do a vote on those, or is that just going to be in the final recommendations as?
I think it will be
One final
final
vote.
recommendations, and the only reason I'm not going to call for a vote on these today, we just got this within the last 2 or 3 business days, and I'm not sure everybody's completely had a chance to digest it. I know we have 1 or 2 meetings still currently scheduled.
Okay.
And before we present our final and overall recommendations.
And then
Anybody
just-
have any input on that?
No, it's it should be just part of the list as we're keeping track of what we're
Yes,
be kind of separate anyways, on different, probably those would all be on a separate vote, I would assume.
I believe they are, yes. I think at this point, we should be voting line by line. Get to that stage. So as Mr. Graves has informed us, item 25 requested by the fire department, SCBA's replacements of 8 units, and line item 27 from the fire department, utility truck with some alternate funding that Senator Goby has shared with us. And again, that's the one pending and awaiting the governor's approval. Always nice when we have alternate funding sites available and helping us to help the community along. And the last one I have noted here that just to mention is the line item 31 sewer, the Karate Ave wastewater pump station upgrade project. That's a replacement of what's there. Their request is coming out of sewer retained earnings. The money is there to cover that expense as well.
Tim, what about number 9? It said they possibly would have a CPC or like water funding. Have they?
I have not heard back from the CPC. I know Light and Water has done some work up there. I don't know how much they have looked at planning to add. Holly, any input or advice on that?
I haven't heard about that one.
I have not either. We'll just go right up above that, top of the list, item number 2. Justice, what is your A and F for the department? I'm not following the.
Oh, I put administration and finance.
Okay. This is for the bathrooms, concession stand at Gilman Waite Park, specifications for improvements for the facilities, and evaluating the plan to start the project with funds that are already available and committed as previously appropriated $10,000. So that's one that we're going to take a really deeper dive into as we digest all of these. Any thoughts or discussions on that?
So that's looking for $10,000 just to see what's needed.
It's already been appropriated, it just has not been spent. We have a number of projects. This is one of my stated positions on the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, sorry, living in the past here. A lot of things we're just trying to clean up and get things off of the books that have, for whatever reason, slid off the radar and at times even off the table entirely. And just close out projects that are in various stages of undoneness. Next item that I see that's open. Line item 10, Highway Department 6-wheel dump truck, plow sander, replacement for a 21-year-old designated H9 Freightliner truck with a possible trade-in discount. I don't know that we have received an estimate on that trade-in discount at this time. Oh, do you have any additional information on that?
I know in the there's a few vehicles in here that may or may not be looked at as far as going forward. I mean, you got a police cruiser, you got a dump truck. Thankfully able to take the utility truck off the table if we can get that. I know the amounts that we have as far as capital planning is 190, which obviously doesn't cover all multiple vehicles.
Correct.
But at the same time, I really think that we should look at the potential of putting forward at least the purchase program on these larger vehicles. I know there's not everyone's for leases, but with the financing right now, when you got a town that has a number of departments that could use equipment and vehicles, I think it's very important to look at it and see if it really, if what it adds to our general obligation, to our debt, if it really balances out with what it benefit for, we can actually help the various departments too. I don't think just having 190 and saying, okay, we have a $200,000 vehicle, we can buy, that.
Right.
You break that down, or you break something like that, 200 something thousand down to a 5-year lease to purchase, and you're only having to come up with, 60,000 a year, whatever the math is. I think it'd be a good opportunity to the town. I know not everyone's for it. I guess not everybody has to be for it. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I don't know whether it's town administrator, whether it's the board of selectmen that chooses which way to do it on that. But I think it's something that we seriously need to consider, even if it's just our committee putting it forward. Is that I guess our job is to put forward what we think will be best for capital planning. And then the other boards and committees, individuals' job to tear it apart if they don't like it, I guess. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. Again, I think I've gone round and round with Adam before about lease purchases. But at the same time, I know we still use them, and I think I've seen it very beneficial to towns, including Templeton in the past.
Yeah, it has been used in the past.
About the ladder truck, the engines, all lease the purchases, and it spreads it out. It spread the wealth in the community because we don't have a lot of wealth. So it might be a possibility just to throw that out there as we're looking at these individual items.
Yes. And the recommendations we make from here, even as we do our closeout report, does go forward and gets other levels of review. And then ultimately, what we put forward suggest is up to the taxpayers at the annual town meeting.
Right.
These will all be entered in as warrant items, line items as we go along. So yes, we can suggest, but
Right. Oh no. And
at
that's
the end of the day, the taxpayers are going to vote
Right.
what they feel comfortable with. But yeah, I see merit to what you're proposing. I truly do. I know there are some people who are not in favor, and that's okay too. Differences of
Yeah, no,
opinions are
absolutely.
always accepted. Any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah,
I think it's a good way to go. I know Adam doesn't like it, but I think it's a good way to go. Going forward, I don't think we're gonna, the next few years are probably gonna be lean for capital budget money, and
they are.
it's a good way to go.
They are. He just wanted me to make sure that everyone was aware that the senior center roof is really an urgent repair. And hopefully that will be the top thing on your list to put forward. It's to the point where this leaks, and is this really going to be a lot of damage if I don't get it fixed? I know it's a big chunk, but just keep that in mind. It is.
Yeah, line item 13 at $60,000 previously appropriated to that with another obligation that kind of knocks us down quite a bit on what's available for capital. But I can certainly understand the argument and discussion on that. Any other thoughts, comments, Steve? There's a number of projects submitted by Buildings and Grounds, replacing the small CD5 dump truck. Again, a potential for a lease to purchase there. Town Hall parking lot repair, phase 1. DPW parking lot repairs, Templeton Center Fire Station parking lot repairs, the School Street Fire Station parking lot repairs. There's significant amounts tied to every one of these, and the costs of all that are just going up. If anybody's repaired a driveway or a sidewalk recently, and just the cost of blacktop alone is skyrocketed. So the numbers, even though they look staggering and scary, are quite realistic, and it's
If not low by the time they go out the
if
bid.
not low by the time they go out to bid, because it's only going to go up. Following along, School Street Fire Station, second floor kitchen. Station 2, as it's referred to, demo and reconstruction of the existing setup in the kitchen. That's a quality of life issue for the crews. and the members who are there on a 24-hour basis. The town hall cupola, the restoration, that's a conservative estimate, I do believe. Yes, it is the emergency management building restoration and construction.
Has that gone to CPC at all on that with being a historical building? And
I
that?
don't know that that has gone to CPC. I know there was kind of kicked back and forth, but I have not heard an official. Have you heard anything?
I haven't, I don't believe it has gone.
I don't believe it has either. I did not catch the last CPC meeting.
It just seems like that'd be a preservation project. It's a historical building in town and potentially would be something of that.
Looking on down the list, items 28, 29, 30 is presented by the fire department. Station security system at both fire stations. That is a very conservative estimate to put in security systems. Tanker one vehicle, that's replacing a 32-year-old vehicle, which is it says a lot. We've kept it going for quite some time.
And it was a milk truck to start with, I believe. I think that's an old, wasn't that an old milk tanker or something, an old tanker?
I think it was given by National Guard of the Military. I think it was a hand-me-down. Yeah, the
No,
tanker.
that one's not military. I'm wondering if the one that used to be over in Baldwinville was the.
I'm not sure. I was thinking that used to be an old, but still 32 years.
32 years is 32 years. Yeah, and unfortunately, they're not giving
On that
away,
much weight too.
not giving away fire apparatus. Yeah, 3,000 gallons. Chief Smith, you're fully aware.
Yeah.
Calculate the weight of a vehicle. That's a steel tank or stainless steel tank. So
It's a heavy truck.
8.4 pounds per gallon per water. You've rounded up to 10. So you're talking 30,000 pounds of weight, 15 tons on top of the vehicle.
Before you even get the vehicle.
Before you even get the vehicle. It's like, ouch. Not your little car sitting in your driveway for sure. And then the last item, the gear dryer, that's a new purchase and that meets in, I'm sure you can speak to this as well, part of the cancer initiatives.
Yes.
And keeping turnout gear cleaned. And this is not your in the home commercial or a residential style washer and dryer. This is a truly purpose-built commercial system designed to get the fire gear clean and
Once painted, so they can dry out, so you buy your second set. Hopefully you have a second set. If not, which a lot of the members, I don't believe all have second sets. I'm not 100% sure. And here, I know ours don't all have second sets, and that's a gear dryer is a big thing. They can wash it, dry it, and it's within probably 3 hours. It's dry and back in service versus them trying to have dirty, wet gear. And it used to be fine. We didn't pay attention to that, and now it's come out and multiple reasons why we have to.
yes, and that concept, second gear, second set of equipment is not a new concept whatsoever.
No.
20 plus years ago, when I was living on the other side of the country, we had that all in place, but it was a definite different system because it was a county-wide operation. And there are some benefits and there are some kicks in the teeth when you're dealing with a county-wide system as well.
Has there been any thought given to, we got a number in the middle here on, I guess I call them large ticket repairs, on putting those all together and trying to move them forward as a townwide project of any sort? Because looking at, I mean, I don't want to be negative Nancy here, but looking forward at parking lots and all the parking lots, and you're looking at just in that, over almost upwards towards $200,000 by the time you're adding them all together with, the phases, and then the town hall's phase 1 is only phase 1.
Right.
Like any type on those, you get that, you get the senior center roof, you got the bridges that need to be repaired, and they're gonna have to be either closed or repaired at some point.
Yes.
Nobody likes specific debt exclusion things, but at least a specific debt exclusion on a townwide repair projects, the town knows what it's for. I know a lot of times there's been a lot of people against overrides and that because it goes for one thing and then the following year it's fair game and up for grabs. And sometimes debt exclusion articles, you can be very specific on them and what they're gonna go for.
Yeah.
It might get some of these projects that may sit on capital planning for 10 years. I mean, we've seen and probably have been some of them even.
One of the beauties with debt exclusion is that debt does have an end point, and
Right.
it does drop off.
It drops off.
We gotta love Proposition 2.5.
Right.
No
I mean, it's just-
matter what you stand on it, it impacts all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some of these and I know it's, it's usually a taboo subject. Okay, it's debt exclusion, but some of these projects, like, like how I said with the senior center,
Mhm.
if we don't do it, we've wasted what we have put into the building.
Yes.
Are we gonna continue having to put that much money in? I don't know. But if we potentially lump some of these together to do as a repair, it may be something that it's a little different than putting forward how we've probably had in the past individual projects, but it might be something that potentially could be lumped. Just kind of throwing that out there on the, trying to reallocate and spread some of it around to get it so there's specific projects and not just one project a year for the next 30 years. Because that's how long this would take it, 198,000 a year.
Yes. It's absolutely. And our goal is to try to present our recommendations with a 5-year plan as well.
Right.
So
I just,
things that we can move along or help or consolidate in that such a fashion would be a benefit to the town as a whole.
I just think that might eventually be better than just putting forward, okay, 2 items and see you next year. Because that will be you will have some of these coming for a long time, I think.
Oh, yes.
And, and they're all important in a lot of different ways. I mean, you start seeing, someone goes out and trips and falls at the fire station, I mean, because we've been talking about pavement for 5 years. That's an issue, different things like that.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think here, because we're talking about debt exclusion, since the issue with the senior center roof is so bad, I know we do have that CapEx stabilization account. Is that something that we would think of recommending forward to put that, bring that to town meeting vote as its own item under possibly taking that out of CapEx stabilization? Because if it is that bad, if we don't do it here, it's most likely going to keep getting brought up. So if we're putting that money into those 3 stabilization accounts, CapEx, OPEB, and OPEX, then I think at some point we need to consider that we need to use some of it for some of these emergency items. If, like I said, at the senior center roof, and I haven't been down to the senior center in a few weeks and haven't looked at that section, but if it is that bad, then it needs to be. I mean, we saw this again last year and we were told it wouldn't last a couple more years. So, I mean, if we can't find a jigsaw puzzle for this that works with the 140 that we want to put forward for regular capital expenditures, maybe we think about not debt exclusion, but maybe we think about using the CapEx. That would just be my thoughts.
It's definitely the goal and intent of the CapEx, and that would be, however we put it forward, that would go, the first cut would be the advisory committee, because they have a lot of say on that. And it goes to the select board, and then again, it would be moved forward, because that is something that the voters on the town floor have the ultimate say. We go with-
Do you know what the amount total is in the CapEx thing?
I don't know how much it's. I don't know how much it is.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
That doesn't matter. I was just curious. I mean, I know it's.
But if we do go through that route, because it is a stabilization account, it would be more significant than what we usually put out, because it would be a 2/3 vote on town floor. So
Yes.
that's what it would, yeah.
Yes. Like many other things, there's no guarantees on any of it. As far as getting the approvals. So again, although I would love to say, let's rack and stack them and pull it through, we did not have a ton of time to digest and review all this, but just getting the discussions out there. And
I think the top on the police vehicle, I think that's important. That's an ongoing replacement plan.
yes,
I think that, you know, it's again, it's something that, as far as going forward on that, and again, would be either on a straight out purchase or again, on a lease to purchase. Again, you know, that could,
and there is a green community initiative tied to that.
Right.
That the estimated non-taxpayer expense on that of the $5,000. That truly becomes use it or lose it, and I'd rather us not lose it if at all possible.
Right.
What I would charge the board is go back over the next couple of days, kind of look these over, put your own ranking and how you would stack these with a presentation. And at our next meeting, we can look, discuss, and come to a consensus of what we're going to put forward in the final report. Any thoughts or comments to that?
no, I think it's a good idea. I think, and again, you know, like I said, I think some items are, you know, and bringing up the CapEx, and that's not always popular with different boards, but that's ultimately what it's there for sometimes. And same with, you know, the debt exclusions or a combination of things like that. But at the end of the day, when you do something like that and you put some of these major items, and even you take the 32-year-old tanker, maybe it's something that just plain goes forward on its own. And, you know, maybe that's something that the town, the taxpayers and the voters decide if they, you know, need it or not. They feel they need it or not. You know, they may not know why they do, but if it's explained to them, you know, it gives the taxpayer a chance to be an educated voter on that. Same with, you know, some of the other projects or, you know, the bridges, and, you know, people look at them and, you know, figure it out from there. I think it's good to give them the option. And if the taxpayers ultimately at town meeting don't want it, they'll say no. I mean, it's pretty simple when it comes to that, I guess.
Another piece to this that I keep in the back of my mind, and I'm trying to stay on top of it and figure out the ARPA funding. It's such a moving target right now. I know there's been a lot of communications back and forth from our Senate and House representatives that there are various things in various stages that are yet to be approved until we see what they are going to approve and what additional funds are going to
Well,
be
not-
released. We can't go spending what's not in our hand.
Right. And that's where the, you know, even like the, you know, the 400 and the 200 on the bridges.
Yep.
As far as infrastructure goes, the majority of these first rounds of ARPA funds that are coming out now this year and the upcoming one, that should be something that, I mean, unless they change their rules again, that should be possibly available for that.
Yep.
And isn't there that infrastructure deal that's going forward in Congress right now? Did that pass? I haven't been paying attention.
I have not heard that it's passed.
Okay.
It's getting a lot of publicity.
Right.
Some good, some not so good.
Because that's something that, you know, as we're looking at these projects too, infrastructure, you know, is, you know, so, you got that, you got, you know, some of the other stuff, the wastewater, you know, the pump station sewer replacement, sewer earnings, but
And again, I'm gonna take the deeper dive with ARPA and reach out to the contacts I have and see if I can get any kind of an indication where they even suspect it's going to go.
I mean, even parking lots, is that considered infrastructure? It's part of your,
By the true definition, it is infrastructure,
right, so,
but what
If they
remains
stick to that-
uncertain is where are they gonna draw the lines and say, yes, this meets it, no, this doesn't meet it. And that seems to be what changes
weekly.
almost weekly. Yeah,
No, it does.
It-
It
it's a
does.
true moving target.
And, you know, unfortunately, sometimes they don't tell you if it's approved until after you do the project.
Yes.
And then they sit there and say, oh, yes, or oh, no.
Or then they'll sit there and say, well, no, we really didn't approve that. And of course, you're dealing with the US Treasury Department, and when they determine, no, they want it paid back right now. And sitting there saying, fork it over. So
Yeah, that'd be
we
something.
want to make sure we do this, do our due diligence, and we do this in the best interest of everybody moving forward.
Yeah, definitely, that'd be something, I don't recall when our next meeting is, but that'd be something if we have get any kind of a idea on if certain things are potentially available for ARPA funds, that would, at least in my mind, it would affect what I put forward if I know it could be, funded through that, that's what one-time funds are for, is to spend it on one-time things that,
Yes.
I believe our next meeting is next week on December 8th on the schedule.
That sounds correct. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but yes. Good man has his day plan. I like it. And I do have an ARPA webinar later this week. I don't remember what time on Friday, so hopefully I can get some more answers there as well. Any other thoughts or comments? It's a lot to digest, there's no doubt about that. It's not an insurmountable task, but we do have our homework ahead of us. No doubt about that whatsoever.
I actually think it's a good list. And we've, the 190 is something we got, but I think we've got the possibility of putting forward a number of projects through various things.
Yes.
I think that'll be, we have the ability to put forward some decent projects, and where it goes from after us, I guess, takes the course, by the course.
For those trying to follow along at home and make heads or tails of what we're discussing, in our three big columns, estimated non-taxpayer funded expenses were at 2.4 million. Previously appropriated funds were at 70,000. And as presented without any additional funding alternatives, an estimated taxpayer funded expense of 2.745 million, almost 2.75. And we're sitting with $190,000 in capital to figure out what we're gonna plug the leaks in the dam with and move forward. So our little committee has a lot riding on our shoulders, there's no doubt about that. So I will do my homework and due diligence over the next few days to see what ARPA may be releasing. And hopefully they don't change it after they give us some input and guidance. I don't think I'm gonna hold my breath for that one. You
What has
bring
the
up-
town received as far as applicants so far?
We've received approximately 1.2 million. It was done in a two increment process.
Yeah,
The
no,
second increment has not been released.
Yeah, it's come out in July or something. Probably.
But even at that, there's not enough to fund everything on the list.
No,
At this
definitely
point-
not.
at this
I'm
point
just
in time.
thinking of the infrastructure, the definite infrastructure projects potentially.
Yeah.
The bridge repairs certainly seem like that's road work, there's no way around it. I mean, it's bridge work, that's definitely infrastructure without even don't travel, so.
Any other thoughts on what we have proposed? Do you think of any other alternative funding sources? No. Fire a message in to Holly and then she can share that with the rest of us. Holly, anything to add from the town administrative side?
I don't believe so. I think I've shared everything else. He did want me to mention that remember, we spent 200,000 on that truck in the fall, so our total is really 390, even though we already spent some.
The loader. Okay. And that was an immediate need and replacement as well.
Right.
The catastrophic failure of the one piece of equipment. So we have our more marching orders. Any closing comments or thoughts? Cheryl sitting there quietly, I can see all the dollar signs swirling around in her head,
Never
probably more
enough
so than
money.
they are in mine.
There's never enough money.
No, that is one thing that is for darn.
Creative financing comes in.
All that show.
Municipal finance.
Yes. But you can't do it at the sake of robbing Peter to pay Paul. as
No,
they say.
unfortunately, that's why a lot of these projects get here.
Yeah.
Is because we have, over the years, done this instead of this and this instead of this. So you know, you need all of these now. That's why even like the SCBA's tanks, stagger them in 3 years, and that way if you keep staggering them like that, they're not gonna be replaced now for another, 12, 15 years. And continue to do that. Same with the cruisers, same thing. You stay on a cycle and you try to get as many of these things routinely, and they become part of what you write into things, and it's just plan forward, like Tim, like you said, a 5-year plan, not just a 1-year plan. So, you sit down and we don't just have a 1-year number, we've got a 5-year thought in our head.
Yep, moving forward.
Right.
If we don't establish a goal, we're never gonna know if we can achieve it.
Right.
And then once we do achieve it, we have to rewrite it, and make it something that's again attainable.
Make a motion to adjourn. If nobody's got anything else. I think that's the last thing on the agenda, right?
That was the last thing on the agenda.
I will second.
We have a motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussions? Any discussions? Hearing no discussions, I'll call for the votes. Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Richardson,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. 4:12.